Hey there, I just finished Halo 5 Guardians on normal, and that finishes a journey I started way back in 2019 when Halo the Master Chief Collection first came to PC, and I was able to experience a Halo game for the first time in my life, having wanted to play one pretty much since I was, well, as young as I can remember. Growing up, we were always a PlayStation household, and, I had no regrets about that. I love PlayStation games. Never had an Xbox until the Xbox Series S came out last year, so this was before I ever had an Xbox. It was announced that it was coming to PC, and I was among some of the most, shall I say, loudest people celebrating that fact, because I cannot express enough how much I had always wanted to play a Halo game, especially having kind of grown up watching Red vs. Blue. And obviously knowing that the games don't, there's a difference between Halo and Red vs. Blue, but loving the look of that game and its kind of universe and the way the multiplayer even worked. I believe I did pick up a Halo Combat Evolved PC disc at one point, and I played through maybe the first 2 levels, but just knowing it was the only Halo I'd really be able to play, because I don't think I knew that Halo 2 was PC as well at the time, it kind of, it wasn't like, yes, I'm finally getting to play Halo. It was more, I guess I'll check out this Halo thing, whereas Halo the Master Chief Collection coming to PC was probably among my favourite ever gaming announcements. I remember when they announced the Master Chief Collection for Xbox all those years ago when I was watching E3, and I was just like, oh man, I wish, obviously they'd never bring it to PlayStation, but I wish that other games that I liked would do that kind of thing. As I'm recording this, I don't know when this will go live, but as I'm recording this, it is the 20th anniversary of Xbox and Halo, so I think I chose a pretty poetic day to finish my exploration of the series, and there are rumours that the multiplayer for Halo Infinite is going to shadow drop later today, but who knows whether they came true. You probably do. I'm sure you know whether they did or not, but I figured I should probably record my thoughts on the Halo series before I get too familiar with one half of the next game in the series. So yeah, to kind of go through them, Halo Reach was my first experience. Halo Reach was the first one they brought over to PC for the Master Chief Collection, and I believe they added it to the Master Chief Collection on Xbox at the same time because it was missing. And yeah, I absolutely loved it. It's probably one of my 2 favourite campaigns out of all of them. Spoilers, you'll learn what the next one is later on. But it was just amazing, I think partially because it was my first experience playing Halo, but also because they started us off on a fairly modern one. I definitely enjoyed my time playing Halo 1 for the first time, but I feel like starting with Halo Reach was probably the better move because it's the more enjoyable campaign, just because it's got more refined gameplay, more years of expertise developing the games, better technology, stuff like that. It's a nice middle ground of here's the earliest part of a story, but also here's kind of what the gameplay is going to evolve into over the course of the next few games. As a quick aside, I do have a playlist of videos on this channel of my first time playing through each campaign. You can find that by going to my channel, going to the playlists and looking for, I believe it will be called My First Halo Campaign Playthroughs. It'll have all of them from Reach to 5. I think one of them has the second half of the video is multiplayer or something, but you can just skip past that if you want. Or alternatively, you can see my entire journey of both single player and multiplayer Halo through the Halo Master Chief Collection Shenanigans playlist, which is just every Halo video I've ever made. If you go back and watch me playing Halo Reach for the first time, you'll very much be able to hear the glee in my voice. It was a long time ago now, but I just remember the guns felt amazing to shoot. The enemies, I was just so surprised by how much fun the enemies were to fight. I'm not a huge FPS campaign guy. I've never finished a Call of Duty. I did enjoy a bit of World War II, but I never finished it. And I've just, it's not the kind of game I really go out of my way to play, but something about Halo is special, it's different. It's actually, I'll say the only other one I've really played like it is Destiny, and that's Bungie's evolution of that kind of genre anyway. I will say, for the sake of comparison, I think I prefer Destiny's lore in its world and its sci-fi. Because however I feel about a game at the minute, and have done for the last year or so, I will always love its approach to more of a solar system sized narrative where you're going to planets that you can kind of place in your mind, whereas Halo is just one of the many sci-fi worlds where it's okay, off we go to this planet, where is it? it's just another planet. What do you care? Like, we just go through slip space and we end up there. I'm sure there's probably some sort of galaxy map somewhere in the extended universe, but I've always preferred the kind of more localized solar system story of Destiny. But no, playing this as kind of a precursor to Destiny as well, because this is what they made shortly before they went on to make Destiny. It was really interesting to be like, oh man, I recognize this. I recognize the enemy types, the kind of combat patterns, the different kind of guns. Like, obviously it's different in Destiny and you have abilities and stuff which you don't in Halo, but I could trace the DNA back, and it was really interesting to play. It's like playing Spyro 3 before going and playing Ratchet & Clank. For different games for sure, but they share a lot of DNA. I wasn't sure how I'd feel about some of the slightly more I don't know how to say, not necessarily muted colour palette, but more down-to-earthness of Halo Reach compared to other Halo games. Like, you're not on as many spaceships. You are at some point, but you're not on as many. The weapons aren't quite as sci-fi feeling. It's a little bit more grounded in reality, more so than some of the other Halo games, it feels like, just in terms of art style and feel and world. But no, I loved it. Of course I loved it. And I feel like now that I've played all of these games, I want to go back and play them again on harder difficulties now. I did try playing through Halo Reach on Legendary Solo once, and I think I got past the first level okay, but I got a little bit more stuck on the second level. Same with Halo 1, funnily enough. I think I finished Halo Reach's campaign within the first day or two that it came out, and then I spent a lot of time in multiplayer. Although I will say, one criticism I have of a lot of these Halo games is that when you're in multiplayer and you're shooting other Spartans, the guns feel quite blunt. Like when you're hitting someone with a DMR in Halo Reach, it feels like you're tickling them until their shields pop and you kill them. That's been true of Halo probably up until Halo 4, which fixed that. And it's just one thing I've never liked about those games, playing them through for the first time, or even just watching videos of people playing them. I knew it would bug me before it ever did. So there's that. Like, out of the two, out of Halo and Call of Duty, cool, because that was always, the rivalry. Obviously Halo's better. That's an objective fact. No, of course it's not. That's my opinion. But I think Call of Duty does have the better, satisfying shooting, at least up until Halo 4. Doesn't mean the multiplayer isn't still amazing in its own right, though. God damn, now I want to play Halo Reach. So I guess we should move on to Halo 1. Funnily enough, Halo 1 had an interesting issue where if you didn't update to the latest version of Windows and you played Halo 1 on PC, you couldn't pick up any guns. So that was interesting. I played through the entire first level without picking up any new guns before realizing why I couldn't. That was an annoying bug, but I'm sure that's been patched now, or maybe just everyone's up to date on Windows. That was a thing with the Xbox Game Pass app for a while as well. You couldn't get into it if you didn't have the latest version of Windows. I absolutely hated that, and I'm glad they seem to have stopped doing it. Or maybe it was that you couldn't download games. It was something. So for Halo 1 and Halo 2, I made a decision, because they have these two different graphics modes. They obviously have the original graphics, or as close to them as they would recreate, and they had the remake kind of graphics, or the remastered graphics, I guess I should say. I decided to play through on the original graphics for both of them for the first time, and decided I would go back and beat the game with the remastered graphics on a higher difficulty at a later date, which I am yet to do. And the reason I did that is because I really wanted to get that original Halo experience. I'm not the kind of person who gets turned off from a game if the graphics are old. For me, aesthetics are way more important than graphics, and I've heard some people argue that the remastered graphics of Halo Combat Anniversary kind of take away from the aesthetics of the original game, so I've yet to play through it. We'll see. But yeah, I played through the original graphics, probably to the relief of many who are hearing this. They're like, oh my god, thank god he actually played it as intended. And yeah, I loved seeing like the kind of... It's not PS1 because Xbox came out more around PS2, so I guess PS2 style graphics of its era, of like the flat textures and jagged edges and polygons and stuff. I actually really like the design of the original Elites and the original Master Chief from Halo 1. I love the aesthetic of it. I think it's aged really well, especially with all of these lo-fi polygon indie games coming out lately that are kind of like reintroducing us to that graphic style anyway. The Magnum in Halo 1 obviously feels amazing. It does create an unfortunate situation in multiplayer where if you've got a game mode like Slayer where you start with a Magnum and a battle rifle, sorry. If you start with a Magnum and the assault rifle, you just wouldn't use the assault rifle because the Magnum did way more damage. This would also lead to issues. What? This would also lead to. I'm leaving that in. This would also lead to issues in maps like, I believe it's called Sidewinder, if not in Halo 1, then in a later version of it, where the map was so open and big that you had people with Magnums pinpoint accuracy shooting each other from like across the map before you really had a chance to do anything. It definitely wasn't the most refined multiplayer experience, probably because Halo 1 came out before Halo was a thing and took off and became so popular and was known for such a fun multiplayer game, you know? I really enjoyed the basic story of Halo 1, about finding this ring, exploring what it is, finding out what it's made for, stopping it from activating, blowing it up and leaving and being like the only survivor. Really enjoyed that experience. That was a lot of fun. But I will point out that the level design has, I would argue, aged badly. Like, obviously the enemy placement and how the levels look and all of that stuff and the cover is all really good, but those levels have lots of areas which just repeat, where you like go for a set of rooms and then a corridor and then the exact same set of rooms and then a corridor and then the exact same set of rooms and then a corridor. The library was especially bad for this, although you could argue the library was more about endurance anyway in regards to facing the flood. Oh god, the flood, I haven't thought about them for a while. But it's just on a lot of levels. And I think the one that was most notorious for me was towards the second half of the game. I forget what the level's called. I think it's after you've discovered what a Halo ring is and you're trying to get back to the Pillar of Autumn. And it's kind of like when you're leaving a snowy area and you kind of go into this little installation area. Not installation area, you know what I mean, this little room, and then you come out to a bridge, and then you go into another room, and then you come out through that same bridge on the other side of it, and then you go into another room, and then there's another bridge, and then another room, and then another bridge, and it just keeps copy pasting. And oh my god, that's the reason why I didn't sit through Halo 1's campaign in like a day or two like I did with Halo Reach. In fact, I wouldn't do that again until my next favourite Halo campaign, which, if you didn't guess, was not this one. Obviously I gave it kind of a pass for this because it's the first Halo game, it's the oldest Halo game, it's of its era, it's of its time, and it was undeniably a massive industry-shaking game to release, but just in modern standards, that it was way too repetitive. So Halo 2, again, I played it with the original graphics, and this was the first Halo campaign that I really fell off playing, not because it was bad, but just because I have a shit attention span. My attention span is easily pulled away by other games, and I just didn't feel like I was in a rush to get through these Halo campaigns. About halfway through it, I stopped playing, and I didn't play again for another 3 months, but instead of starting over, I decided to just continue from where I left off. But because of that, I'd say my Halo 2 campaign experience is slightly fragmented. I think Halo 2 is one of the most interesting campaigns, gameplay and story-wise, because of how you play as the Arbiter, and you get to see the other side of a story. You get to play as the evil aliens who actually aren't all that evil. They're just going through their own stuff, their own civil disquiet, and you know, the whole, again, it's been a while since I played it and my experience was fragmented, and I'm probably going to go watch a story recap before Halo Infinite comes out, but the whole splintering of the Covenant is super interesting, about how they're following these prophets and how the not the grunts, sorry, the elites become disillusioned, or I shouldn't say disillusioned, but they stop believing everything the prophets tell them, and they break away, and the brutes kind of become, they kind of take their place in the Covenant, and they become the main baddies for Halo 3 specifically, and it's really interesting to see that from the perspective of the Arbiter, and I think I'd really need to play it again to get a full understanding of the story and everything that was going on, and I'm sure I will at some point in the future. But yeah, as for the Arbiter, he's a great character. I think the elites are my favourite aliens in all of Halo, and I mean, what's not to love about them? I thought dual wielding was an interesting decision. I knew that Halo 2 introduced dual wielding, of course, but I'm not sure it's the best thing they ever did, and I don't blame them for stepping that back from Halo 4 onwards, because I think it was in Halo 3 as well, wasn't it? I'm pretty sure it was, yeah. I get the idea that you're like this badass Master Chief Spartan that can dual wield SMGs, and it's cool and all, but a lot of the time it just felt a little bit fiddly. And anyway, they didn't let me dual wield rocket launchers, so what's even the point? I am very excited to go back and experience Halo 2 with the remastered graphics, because it looks like that's an even bigger leap than Halo 1 to Halo 1's remastered graphics. It looks super shiny. Again, I did stop in certain points I did stop in certain points and just toggle the graphics just to see like how different even is it in this version. But yeah, Halo 2 also kind of suffered from repetitive levels of the same areas being copy pasted. I think this was the last game to really have that, luckily, but it's a thing, and it kind of affected my enjoyment of it a little bit, but again, mostly I had a pretty damn good time. Halo 3 I was especially curious about just because of the amount of hype there was for it. Like, I was a PlayStation gamer, and this was in the era kind of before the internet, or before everyone really had easy access to the internet, and you know, before games, like news sites and the prevalence of them and everything, and even I was aware of the hype surrounding Halo 3, and I remember seeing this interview of this guy waiting in queue for it, and he was like, Halo 3 is going to be the best game ever made, of all time, past, present, future, ever, and like, I was like, oh my god, people are fucking excited for this game, huh? Because of that, in my mind, I've always remembered Halo 3 as an amazing Halo game that everybody loved and thought fondly of, but in retrospect that should really speak more highly of Halo 2 and how people felt about that game. But yes, people also loved Halo 3 a lot, I am aware. Halo 3's campaign was a lot of fun and I enjoyed it. I do prefer fighting elites to brutes though, there's no doubt about it, they're just more fun to fight. And yeah, I don't know, I don't think I have a lot to say about Halo 3's campaign. It was just a solid campaign. It was just, you know, there was less repetitive levels. There was, if I'm being perfectly honest with you, I'm trying to remember most of what happened right now. There's a lot of Halo to sort through in my brain right now. I do remember the Scarabs being big boss battles and how frustrated I got at a couple of them. I think there was one where they dropped 2 on you, and I didn't see that there was a Banshee to use. I thought you had to drive around in a Warthog and try and shoot the legs out and everything, and I spent absolutely ages trying to do that and getting very angry when I inevitably couldn't. Luckily I made myself go back to it the next day, and lo and behold I found the Banshees right at the start of a checkpoint that were always there waiting for me. Overall, I don't think Halo 3's campaign quite lived up to the hype that I had heard about in my mind, but that's probably because I'm playing it out of time. And I did enjoy it, by the way. I'm not saying it's not amazing, but I'm saying in my mind it always stood out as like this absolute paragon of video game campaigns, and it's probably because of that very reason that I didn't enjoy it as much as I might have otherwise, because expectations matter a lot about your enjoyment for something when going into it, something we'll get back to very soon. As for Halo 3 ODST, I started it. I was immediately hit with the muted colour palette, the almost sepia tones. I did think the vibe of walking through the sacked city of New Mombasa was really cool, and I really liked the concept of kind of like a side call campaign where you're seeing what other people are doing during the events of, I believe, Halo 2 leading up to Halo 3, I might be wrong. I thought it was during the events of Halo 3 when I was playing through it, but I thought about it later and realised that didn't make much sense. Again, apologies. But I got a couple of missions in, and then I stopped playing, got distracted by something else for a few months again. But I really came back to it and really kind of knuckled down on these Halo campaigns within the last month or two, knowing that Halo Infinite was so close to release. In the end, I really enjoyed Halo 3 ODST. I liked the squad-based campaign. It reminded me of Reach, and obviously being the game that preceded Reach, I found a lot of parallels there. I think Halo 3 ODST might be the comedies to Halo Reach's tragedy. As much as you can call it a comedy, it is still about the sacked city of New Mombasa and everything like that, but there's a lot more jokes told between the squad mates, there's a lot more light-hearted moments, and it doesn't end with a city, or sorry, an entire planet being glassed. Sorry, it actually does end with a city being glassed, but it's not quite like the massive tragedy that Reach is it? I mean, it is. It definitely is, and they do a lot of good work talking about, or like, if you go and find the intelligence data things, or whatever they call them in this game, you do hear like people screaming on a train, and it makes it more real than just the normal campaign by itself ever does. But again, you kind of have to go out of your way to find that, whereas Reach really lets that kind of tragedy permeate into every fibre of the campaign. You definitely feel a whole lot more squishy when you're not Master Chief, and it kind of changed how I addressed combat situations. I hung back a lot more, I was a little bit more tactical as well. I assume that was probably a gameplay decision that was made on purpose, or maybe it was all psychological and you actually have exactly the amount of health that Master Chief has, and I was just being a big wuss, who knows. Halo 4, since we're running out of Halo games, you've probably already guessed, was my other favourite campaign. Oh my god, I went into Halo 4 expecting to not like it or have to find nice things to say about it, because I was like, okay, so this is the point in which 343 take over from Bungie, and the game's quality starts to become controversial. Not everyone loves them. Halo's not the massive thing it used to be. It's not the cultural zeitgeist it was. And I was just not expecting much. And I came away at the end of a campaign being like, that was some of the most fun I've ever had in a Halo campaign. What are people talking about? I actually still haven't gone out of my way to look up the common criticisms of the campaign and why people didn't like Halo 4 as much, because if I'm perfectly honest, I don't want to end up noticing those things and liking the game any less. Like, maybe I'm just really easy to please, but like I was trying to look at it with a bit of a critical eye when I started realizing how much I liked it, and I've written about this on my blog as well. Like, the Promethean weapons are fun to fire, the Prometheans are fun to kill, the story goes in an interesting direction, Cortana is interesting for the first time. Like, I never really cared that much about Cortana until now. You learn a lot more about the lore, although I will also add that as a criticism, the game assumes you know more about Halo extended universe lore than you actually do, and it feels like you're struggling to keep up if you don't. But it was just fantastic. It had a solid, cohesive story from start to finish. I played it over the course of about a day or two, like I did with Halo Reach, which I haven't done with any other Halo campaign. And I was like, my god, I'm not going to linger on it too long because I know people really don't like it, but it's just so good, guys. Like, go back and play it again if you haven't given it a chance. Maybe you got caught up in all the criticisms people were throwing around about it. Like, I know I did that with Doctor Who series that I've gone back and rewatched and realised were actually quite fun in their own way. Like, just approach it again with an open mind and you might enjoy it as much as I did. I don't know. Especially now that, you've got Halo 5 to look at and go, well, at least it's not that, which is a bit of a spoiler for my Halo 5 segment. I also just quickly want to address the multiplayer because I haven't talked about it in a bit. In Master Chief Collection, I'll usually queue for all of the multiplayers together because I'm happy playing any of them, even though they're all a little bit different. I can't really choose a favourite multiplayer, but if I've got to, I think Halo 4 might also be one of my favourite multiplayers. It's just modern. It's still Halo, and it's good, and it's just so much fun. And honestly, there will be times when I'll go to play Halo multiplayer, and I don't always queue for every MCC game. Sometimes I will just queue for Halo 4. There's not many other games I do that for. Sometimes I get a hankering for Halo Reach multiplayer just because I played it so much because it was the only one for a long time. But yeah, I don't know. It's good. It's good stuff. It's good. How many times can I say it's good before people will believe me? It's good. Trust me, it's good. Believe me, it's good. It's good. Halo 5... Okay, well, I was going to say it's not good. It's also good. It's a decent game. It's a bad Halo game. I wrote about this way more extensively on kritigri.wordpress.com recently if you want to go and read like a proper critical take on it and less of a ramble. But it just, from the very opening, I was like, I can see the issues people have with this game. And, I tried to look past them like I expected to have to look past Halo 4's, but they were prevalent and many. I won't list them all off here, but like it made me realise why people don't like the Star Wars prequels, because it's just such a different tone. It's just so different, and not in a good way. And like the Spartans are like doing flips in the like the opening cinematic, and I don't even know who these people are, and they're doing like flips and like absurd combat moves and stuff, and that works for Red versus Blue because it's a comedy and it's not really meant to be taken that seriously a lot of the time, even though sometimes it is. But with Halo, it's just like, these people aren't here risking everything to save the universe. They're laughing at their own plot armor. It's not in a way that's reflected in the writing. The first thing I said when I fired the battle rifle was, oh no, the music is way too self-congratulatory and kind of, I don't even know how to describe it. It doesn't feel like Halo music. It feels like the kind of music you'd hear in a war film that only ends up getting a 60 on Metacritic. You spend most of the game as Locke. Like, I haven't actually gone through and measured it, like how much you play as Master Chief versus playing as Locke, but I'm pretty sure most missions are Team Osiris and Locke. And, people come here for Master Chief, Like, if it's not going to be mostly Master Chief, then call it a spin-off game, but like, I don't know, man. It just felt weird. And Locke's fine. He's fine. I actually quite liked his character. But, I don't know, man. It's not Chief, though, is it? And when you do play as Master Chief, he talks too much. Like, he's always been noble and stoic, and now he's just like a quiet team leader. That's pretty much all he is in Halo 5. And I don't know, man, like, I did enjoy certain aspects of his story, like The Guardians were an interesting new threat compared to the Halo rings, I guess. The idea of a civil war between AI style creatures, like they call themselves created and stuff, versus like organic life forms, I think that could be interesting. I wouldn't be surprised if they stepped away from it in Halo Infinite though, because Halo 5 ended on a big old cliffhanger of Cortana taking all of these really powerful Guardians and going to impose peace upon the galaxy, or the universe even. I forget the scale, I think it was universe, which is, by the way, is an exponentially way larger scale than just a single galaxy, which most sci-fi tends to ignore. Maybe it was galaxy, I don't know. But Cortana, like, as much as I really enjoyed her in Halo 4 and actually cared about her and thought rampancy was really tragic and Chief dealing with it was really, compelling to watch, Halo 5, it's all gone. All of that is gone. She's a villain now, and not in a way that's believable in adherence to her previous character throughout the games, and it doesn't work, and it's just I don't like it. I don't want to think about it. And the cliffhanger we leave on before Halo Infinite is that the Guardians have gone out across the universal galaxy and started imposing peace, and humanity's running away because they don't know what to do, and Cortana's at the head of it. She's still around being evil. They say Cortana's gone, but I don't think that's an allusion to her being dead. I think that's an allusion to her being evil, as we see in the Halo Infinite preview, the AI called The Weapon, who I love. She's amazing, she's great. I have a small crush. That's besides the point. She's like, I was created to destroy Cortana, and it's like, so that story's clearly going to continue, but Halo Infinite looks like such a return to what's good about Halo that I don't know how they're going to fix the story that they've left us with at the end of Halo 5. It'll be interesting for sure. Like, I don't hate it, it just doesn't line up with the rest of what we've already seen in the series in terms of plot or character or anything. And yeah, you probably don't need to hear someone rant on about why Halo 5 isn't the best Halo game. I'm sure we've been hearing about that for 6 years now, but I've only just played through it, so those are my impressions. And it took me like 2 weeks to get around to finishing it too, but I've done that now. I've played every game. I've played every Halo campaign, on normal at least, and it's, looking back on it, it's kind of like, wow, I've finally done it. I finally know what Halo is, because going into it, I was very curious about what the story of Halo would even be, what kind of like the key themes and motifs, and what the characters would be like, and all of that. And now I know Halo's another sci-fi universe to add to my belt of sci-fi universes I know about. Although, if we're talking universes, I'm more of a fantasy guy, but that's besides the point again. I am so excited for Halo Infinite. I think it's going to be amazing. I don't know if everyone's going to love the more open world style of it, but as a Destiny fan, I'm here for it, so throw it at me. Please do it well. And yeah, I'm caught up. I'm here. I can go back in time and tell my 7-year-old self, yeah, Halo, that one Xbox game you've always wanted to play, don't worry, you'll get to it, and you'll love it, you'll have a great time with it. And I'm sure in the future, I'm probably going to play more of it, like the old games that I've already played through. Because that's what you do with Halo campaigns, right? You play through them again on harder difficulties with skulls on, in co-op with friends and stuff. Like, I've literally just done the thing that everyone does on Halo launch day for every game once. I've still got a lot of Halo campaign to enjoy. There's secrets I've never explored, there's lore I need to go and read and watch and learn about. This is only the tip of the iceberg, this is only the beginning. I'm still going to play a whole lot more Halo. I don't know if I'm going to bother trying to play another Halo campaign before Halo Infinite releases. This was really like my race to the finish before Halo Infinite comes out, so that I'm caught up on the story without having to, end up watching a YouTube video which will tell me about the story. But also I feel like I should probably take a break from first-person shooters until Halo Infinite, because I pretty much over the last month or so went from most of Halo 3 ODST, Halo 4 and Halo 5, so I'm good for Halo gameplay for a little bit. So I don't know, I might check out Halo 5's multiplayer a bit more. It's okay, the multiplayer is okay, it's not awful, but it's not the best one either. Anyway, thank you very much for listening to my thoughts on Halo, and I will see you in the next video. I'm going to go and watch Xbox's 20th anniversary presentation now and see if the Infinite multiplayer gets shadow dropped. And if it doesn't, I'll be fine. I've got lots of other games to play. But if it does,